Today, let's dive into the details of STAAR ECR writing, specifically focusing on how to effectively incorporate text evidence. Hey, I'm Angela, the teacher behind Custom Classroom by Angela. Before we jump into the nitty-gritty, let's recap what it takes to earn those coveted 3 points on the upper portion of the ECR rubric or checklist. One crucial aspect is text evidence, but how do students navigate this? Let's break it down together. For our example today, let's dive into the timeless tale of Little Red Riding Hood. Picture this, our ECR prompt asks students to explain how Little Red Riding Hood demonstrates carelessness throughout the story. Now let's strategize on utilizing text evidence to support this idea. Now, if you've been following along with my races strategy planning sheet or using my ECR checklist, check the link in the description if you haven't. We'll zero in on the C, citing text evidence. Step 1 is keep the ECR question in mind as you revisit the passage. Remember, at this point, students would have already read and answered questions about the text, making this reread looking for evidence crucial. Now let's start to pinpoint evidence located within Little Red Riding Hood, specifically looking for her carelessness. So this is where we get to step 2. As we go back over the text, we need to highlight sections that show her carelessness and therefore support our answer directly from the text. On a side note, students are able to highlight within the text on the STAAR online platform. So this is something they can and should do on the computer. Now let's read through the story and look for this text evidence. There was once a sweet little maid who lived with her father and mother in a pretty little cottage at the edge of the village. At the further end of the wood was another pretty cottage, and in it lived her grandmother. Everyone loved this little girl. Her grandmother perhaps loved her most of all and gave her a great many pretty things. Once she gave her a red cloak with a hood, which she always wore, so people called her Little Red Riding Hood. One morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother said, "Put on your things to go see your grandmother. She has been ill. Take along this basket for her. I have put in it eggs, butter, and cake, and other dainties." It was a bright and sunny morning. Red Riding Hood was so happy that at first she wanted to dance through the wood. All around her grew pretty wild flowers, which she loved so well, and she stopped to pick a bunch for her grandmother. Little Red Riding Hood wandered from her path and was stooping to pick a flower when from behind her a gruff voice said, "Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood." Little Red Riding Hood turned around and saw a great big wolf, but Little Red Riding Hood did not know what a wicked beast the wolf was, so she was not afraid. "What have you in your basket, Little Red Riding Hood?" "Eggs and butter and cake, Mr. Wolf." "Where are you going with them, Little Red Riding Hood?" "I am going to my grandmother, who is ill, Mr. Wolf." "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "Along that path, past the wild rose bush, then through the gate at the end of the wood, Mr. Wolf." Then Mr. Wolf said good morning and set off, and Little Red Riding Hood went back in search of her wildflowers. So I'm going to stop there because we've already got two pieces of evidence where she's kind of started to show carelessness. She's wandering from the path. She's unaware this wolf's dangerous, and now she's telling him exactly where her grandmother's house is. So with our evidence in hand, I've written a sample response. Notice in a lower grade, this short response with one piece of evidence may be enough, but as students progress, aiming for a more comprehensive response with multiple pieces of text evidence is important. So here my response was, Little Red Riding Hood shows carelessness by wandering from her path. And here's my direct evidence. Little Red Riding Hood wandered from her path and was stooping to pick a flower. This quote shows Little Red Riding Hood's carelessness because she does not listen to her mother and stay on the path. She gets distracted by picking flowers, which leads to her meeting the wolf, which puts her in danger. Little Red Riding Hood's wandering from the path to pick flowers shows her carelessness. This is because it leads her to meeting the wolf. She did not listen to her mother and put herself in danger. For an older student, we might even want to include some evidence about how then she also tells the wolf exactly where her grandmother lives, which is another piece of evidence showing her carelessness on a very simple level here. And then here's an example of what a final response might look like once students have gone through. They've edited, they've removed those kind of letters to help them track that they're including all the pieces, and we've broken it into kind of introduction, a body, and a conclusion. All right, now for step 3, it's more of a tip, but I want to stress the importance of using quoted or paraphrased text evidence. Remind students to completely steer clear of interjecting personal opinions or stories to focus solely on evidence from the text. And there you have it. Armed with these strategies, you're ready to tackle the STAAR ECR writing like a pro. Good luck with your test prep. And remember, if you have any questions, I'm just a click away. Don't forget to grab my ECR tools linked in the description.